From a new recruit in China accidentally dropping a live hand grenade at his feet, and a Russian tank that was trying and failing to do its best Fast and Furious impression, to a massive explosion from 1951 when a US pilot crashed into an aircraft carrier and lived, and a C-17 Globemaster weaving through the picturesque valleys of West Central Wales. Here are 10 incredible military moments caught on camera. It was how to throw a grenade day at a military training facility in Hebei province, China. Pull the pin and throw. It's not that hard. Apparently, a new recruit named Lee had never thrown anything before. His instructor walked out with a live hand grenade, pulled the pin, and handed it to the newbie. The instructors are wearing numbered green pinnies. Lee is dressed in classic military garb. 47 pulls the pin on the grenade and throws it over his shoulder like John Rambo. He hands the grenade to Lee after 15 runs away, and we imagine he says, "Throw it and get down." After a moment, Lee steps up to the sandbag and winds up. But instead of throwing the grenade, it rolls off the back of his hand and falls at their feet. 47 notices and drags Lee over the sandbags. The grenade explodes a split second later. Thanks to 47's quick action, neither man was hurt when the grenade went off. In slow motion, you can see it roll off his hand and land between their legs. A skycam shows us what was supposed to happen. We can't say for sure if that's Lee getting another try. Ukraine was a war zone long before Russia invaded. Both countries have been fighting over Crimea and the Donbas region since 2014. President Putin just took it to a whole new level in February of 2022. In early 2015, a group of Ukrainian soldiers climbed on a tank as it drove down a dirt road. A civilian car pulls over to let the approaching tank pass. We count 8 soldiers on top as they wave to their Ukrainian comrades. They speed by but take a hard right turn when another car doesn't understand wartime right-of-way. The tank skids off the road and crashes into a ditch. A handful of soldiers hustle over, but they don't seem overly concerned. You can hear some pretty pissed off tank riders yelling at the driver. We have no idea what they're saying, but we can't imagine it's anything nice. It looks like one guy swings his rifle at another as they stand on the tank. Hopefully the other guys on top were thrown far enough into the brush. Take this as a learning experience. Tanks have the right of way. George Chamberlain Duncan is what you would endearingly call a badass. He was a World War II flying ace, meaning he shot down at least 5 enemy fighter planes during combat. George survived the war, but almost lost his life during a routine test flight on June 23rd of 1951. We want to preface this video by saying that George survived the crash. He comes in for a landing, but an air pocket pushes his plane below the deck. It crashed into the carrier and bursts into a massive fireball. The cockpit rolls over multiple times before stopping. We can't imagine how hot it must have gotten in there. A rescue worker runs to check on George. He must be thinking, there is no way that this guy is still alive. One group fights the fire while the others tend to George in the cockpit. The footage gets shaky, but it looks like they're carrying him away. We get to see the crash one more time from a different angle. It's painstakingly clear that George is lucky to be alive. The impact was so intense that it forced George's helmet off. The cockpit canopy also came loose, leaving him with little protection from the fire. His ears were badly burned, and the medical crews rushed him to the sickbay. He was back up in the air 6 months later because, as we said, George Duncan was quite the badass. We've been launching fighter planes the same way for about 100 years. You probably thought they just stepped on the gas and took off from the carrier deck, didn't you? We actually use catapults on short runways to get these planes up to speed. The Navy used hydraulic catapults in World War II and steam-powered ones up until the 2010s. Today, carriers like the USS Gerald R. Ford use an electromagnetic aircraft launch system, or an EMALS. Now, they obviously can't test them with a plane, so they strap a heavy cart to it instead. Workers prepare the catapult to launch, and everyone stands back. We can hear it release and then jet down the runway. By the time the camera cuts, it's already gone. Moments later, we see a massive splash in the ocean. From a rear angle, we can see the cart blast down the runway and shoot off the end. The best shot is from another boat on the water. We see the cart come flying off and maintain a few seconds of hang time before crashing. According to the Naval Post, an EMALS's 300-foot linear induction motor can launch a 100,000-pound aircraft at about 150 miles per hour. On December 17th of 1903, the Wright brothers made their first flight. 47 years later, the U.S. Air Force Captain Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier, and we've been getting faster ever since. When you break the sound barrier, you leave a sonic boom in your wake. Onlookers at a U.S. military air show in 2013 learned how loud that boom really is.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the west, roll along the horizon, the F-18 Charlie supersonic
An F-18 approaches from the left, practically kissing the water as it flies by. You can literally see the sound barrier breaking around it. It's gone mere milliseconds later, leaving an impressive sonic boom behind. How fast you have to go depends on the weather and altitude. At sea level, as seen in this video, you need to go at least 770 miles per hour to break the sound barrier. Now, not all military planes need to go that fast to entertain a crowd. Take this C-17 Globemaster III, for example. This transport aircraft can only reach 590 miles per hour, but it still puts on a show. The Mach Loop is a powerful low-level training course in the valleys of West Central Wales. On July 7th of 2017, a crowd gathered to watch some Royal Air Force exercises. They were in for a real treat when the C-17 flew through, becoming the largest aircraft to traverse the course. Onlookers snap photos as the C-17 flies with pinpoint precision. It makes a satisfying sound as it passes through the valley. It doesn't break the sound barrier, but it's still pretty impressive. To put this plane into perspective, the Globemaster III is about 3/4 the size of a Boeing 747. Imagine seeing a commercial airplane traveling that fast and that low to the ground. Every year since 2015, Russia has hosted the International Army Games. Think of it like the Olympics for war. Teams of pro-Russian militaries compete in various derby events like target shooting and tank racing. The tank biathlon might be the most Russian thing ever. At the inaugural games, tanks were supposed to drift around a dirt bend and smash through a water obstacle. If you didn't think you could drift a tank, think again. Our cameraman spins to film the next tank coming around the bend. It whips around the corner like Vin Diesel, and things take an unexpected turn.
Вот она нахуй! Вот это YouTube нахуй отдыхает, блядь! Вот это YouTube отдыхает!
It almost lands back on the treads, but ends up stuck on its side. Our cameraman sounds like an excited NASCAR announcer after a massive pileup. You would think that most tanks are like slow-moving elephants, but they can actually hit 45 miles per hour on roads. Some have even topped 70 miles per hour over quick bursts. We're unsure how badly damaged the tank was in this video, but let's just hope that those involved didn't get into too much trouble. Between 2006 and 2021, the U.S. Army lost 2,189 troops during overseas contingency operations, or OCOs, in Iraq. Of those nearly 2,200 soldiers, 48% fell victim to IEDs, or improvised explosive devices, basically bombs buried in the sand. It takes some real bravery to be a professional bomb diffuser, especially when you can't see them. Just ask this Kurdish bomb technician armed with a pitchfork and some wire cutters. Our technician slams his pitchfork into the sand and pulls up an IED like it's buried treasure. He uses his cutters to snip the wire and casually walks to the next bomb. You can sort of see where the sand is disrupted. Sure enough, he digs in and pulls out another. Now we can't say what these IEDs were made of since you can craft one with anything that goes boom. It might be C4 since that requires detonation and doesn't blow up on contact. We build bigger and better naval ships all the time. So what do we do with the old and obsolete ones? We shoot torpedoes at them, obviously. On July 22nd of 2016, the US Navy decided this ship would never sail again. They positioned her in the Pacific Ocean and engaged the targeting systems on a nearby submarine. Remember, this was a training exercise, not an actual combat scenario. The submarine stalks the ship like a hungry shark. You can see the modern periscope sticking up through the water. It is fitted with sophisticated electro-optical instruments like sensors, lasers, and fiber optics. It locks onto the old ship and fires. The torpedo smashes into the side and causes the vessel to rock like a toy in the bathtub. Our helicopter flies around the ship to show us a massive crater in the hull. One of the cheapest ways to get rid of old ships is sinking them, or scuttling them in maritime terms. They create artificial reefs and foster algae growth, making a healthy habitat for fish. Of course, that's assuming anything toxic and dangerous has been taken off. Military hangars are full of expensive equipment, hundreds of people, and plenty of fuel. Fires can happen anytime, so these buildings must have the best fire suppression systems available. A newly remodeled hangar in Knoxville, Kentucky needed to test its high-expansion foam system. As Major John Barrett describes, the foam basically turns the hangar into a giant bathtub. To pass the test, it must cover the immediate area in 60 seconds and then most of the hangar within 4 minutes. Sirens blast through the hangar as the foam rains down. It doesn't look like much is happening at first, but you'll see how quickly the hangar fills with foam. It takes about 30 seconds to cover the floor and just over 40 to cover the barrels. Within 60 seconds, the entire hangar is covered in a thick sheet of white. We'll call that a successful test. Assuming these guys out front are of average height, that's easily 6 feet of foam piled against the entrance. An Army fire truck arrives to start breaking up the foam. Major Barrett said it should turn into a powdery material after the test, making it easy to clean up. A mounted GoPro from inside the hangar captures the test from the ground up. It really does look like a bathtub full of soap. If you enjoyed this video and want to see another just like it, then be sure to click the link on screen now. As always, thanks for watching and be sure to tune in next time.